Welcome to Flames of Knowledge, a CFSI podcast where we analyze federal policy, spotlight leadership, and tackle issues that matter to the fire and emergency services. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's get to work.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Webb, and I'm the Executive Director of the Congressional Fire Services Institute, and welcome to another segment of our Flames of Knowledge series. During these podcasts, we cover important issues presented by major fire service leaders. And today we'll be talking about the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. We're delighted to have as our speaker the CEO of the Fallen Firefighters Foundation, Victor Stagnaro. Most of you know Victor. But he has been with the foundation since 2010. He started out as the Director of Fire Service Programs. And then in 2023, June of 2023, the Board of Directors appointed him to serve as the Chief Executive Officer of the foundation. Prior to that, he spent 25 years with the Prince George's County Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department. So he's well qualified for this task as CEO of the foundation, and he's doing an extremely great job as its CEO. Just a quick little background, and I'm sure Victor will delve into it more so. But for those of you who aren't aware, the Fallen Firefighters Foundation was established actually by an act of Congress. It was legislation that was introduced by Senator Paul Sarbanes, the late senator from the state of Maryland, in 1992, which created the foundation. It is a nonprofit organization, receives a lot of its funding through federal support as well as private contributions from the corporate community and individuals. So we're delighted to have you here, Victor, and we're looking forward to some discussion on the mission of the foundation. I know you're going at 120 miles an hour. There's always some issues that need to be addressed in the fire service, especially as it relates to public or firefighter health and safety. So welcome to our podcast.
Bill, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you for the kind introduction. And I'll add, as the vice chair of the board, thank you for your many years of service to the foundation and to the families.
Sounds good. So let's start off with just the basic question. What actually got you involved in the foundation?
So interestingly enough, when my predecessor, Chief Ron Sarnicki, who I'm sure everyone knows, was the chief in Prince George's County, we met Hal Bruno at an event back when Firehouse Expo was in Baltimore. And Hal went to Ron and said, "Hey, we want to bring the incident management system into the memorial." This was about 1997 or so. And Ron turned to me and said, "Hey, do you think you can find somebody?" When I was serving as his executive officer at the time. And I thought, well, that sounds like a pretty neat opportunity. So I elected to do it myself. And then just having been to the memorial for the first time, being the first somewhat of an incident commander, of course, it was a lot different back then than it is today. It just gets into your system, gets into your blood. You see the impact that you have when it's serving those families. And I was able to return and do that for many years. Shortly after 2001, I took a bit of a break. And then I came back, as you mentioned, as the director of fire programs in 2010.
So the memorial ceremony, most of the members of the fire service community are familiar with the memorial ceremony up at Emmitsburg. The foundation took on that task once obviously it was created, but prior to the foundation being established, who was performing the work for the memorial ceremony?
Well, the memorial was built in 1981. And just prior to that, in the late 70s, as a result of America burning, the United States Fire Administration was established in the late 70s. So when the memorial was built in 81, it was the United States Fire Administration who performed that task and annually would host the National Memorial. When Congress created us, they mandated that we work with the fire service and host the National Memorial. And of course, we've been great partners with the U.S. Fire Administration for all those years, since 92, or when we first took over the memorial. And they've been great partners along with the rest of the fire service.
So do you want to explain the authorizing legislation lays out the mission of the foundation, and one of those missions is to perform the memorial ceremony, but there are other missions that the Fallen Firefighters Memorial, the foundation has been tasked to perform. Do you want to discuss some of those?
Yeah, so one of the tasks obviously is the memorial, and then to provide scholarships and opportunities for the families of our fallen heroes, to ensure that we work with the states to expand and recognize fallen firefighters, and to provide support for the families to attend the memorial, so they don't have to, ideally wouldn't have to cover the costs of attending the memorial and having to see their firefighter being honored.
Okay. You also, you perform a lot of functions for the survivors. You perform a lot of functions for the fire service to reduce line of duty deaths, do you not?
Yes, we do. So what's happened since then, since the 92 and those early beginnings of really just digging deep into what Congress mandated, through the leadership of the board, we have expanded our programs, and because of some of the federal funding that we receive, we've been able to expand to ensure that we do wellness conferences for our fire hero families. We do a kids camp for the children of our fallen heroes. We have a really good program for scholarships, where we offer, we've almost, since its inception, almost $7 million of scholarships to families and partners of our fallen heroes. And we continue to do that year round. It's not just the memorial that we're working with, but we also, in the very middle 80s, we received some federal funding to help prepare a department to serve and to conduct business when a line of duty death occurs, to prepare them for everything that occurs. So our Taking Care of Our Own program was our first training program that we developed. And in that program, it's actually continues to be the most sought after training program that we offer. We have a fire chief who's had a line of duty death, a fire hero family member who has received that notification about their loved one being killed in the line of duty. And we have a clinician who serves as someone who can talk about the mental health and the support that not only the family will need, but what the department needs. And we've expanded throughout. We do a uniform support group for incident commanders, chiefs, and co-workers, as well as all the different programs we have for the families.
All this is available on your website. All these programs you just outlined are on your website.
Yes, if you go to the website, you can learn more information about that, as well as more information about our other line of duty death prevention programs, which we'll probably cover at some point.
Okay. Senator Sarbanes, again, as a fitting tribute to Senator Sarbanes, you created that scholarship program. I think it's a great program. There's no question about that. I've had an opportunity to sit down and talk to some of the recipients of this program, and it has really made a difference. It's taken a tremendous burden off some of the family members who otherwise would not be able to afford continuing education for their children, as well as for spouses. And so, could you just kind of hit on a scholarship program itself?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it's the Paul Sarbanes Scholarship Program, and we've come up with a really good program where it's a very tiered process where we evaluate the financial need and the ability of the student to be able to perform academically, and then we rate those. The leadership team, the committee that reviews that, just does a phenomenal job. And we've been able to make some true impacts. One of my favorite stories, and there's so many of them, but one of my favorite ones is, it was one of the Dakotas. Firefighter died in the line of duty, left 2 children, and then about 4 months later, the mom died of cancer. So these were truly orphan kids, and we were able to provide full scholarships for those kids. And one of them is getting ready to graduate, and they're completely debt free as they wrap up their college careers. And so it's been a really impactful program. And one of the things that we're beginning to work on is, as we have these kids coming through kids camp, we're beginning to reach out to them and talk to them about their college career. What are their plans? And it doesn't have to be college. It can be also vocational type of education as well. And we want to begin to start guiding them in that process, as well as making sure that they know about the program so they can receive the benefit.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the memorial ceremony. CFSI has the honor of conducting the National Fallen the National Fire and Emergency Services Dinner. We have about 1,500 people attending. Memorial ceremony, close to 4,000 or 5,000. So when I'm at the memorial ceremony, as somebody who's involved with putting large scale events together like that, I notice the small details that are required to put an event together such as this. How much planning is involved in putting the ceremony together? And I imagine you rely tremendously on a cadre of volunteers to help out the foundation with this event.
We do, and planning is year round. I'm sure it's probably similar for your event, but the moment we are done with the memorial, we are beginning to plan for the next year. We're collecting information about what went well, what areas we need to improve upon, and we rely on about 800 volunteers. In fact, somebody told me this past memorial just about a month ago. They said this is probably the biggest public event that is handled predominantly by volunteers, where we don't have a full career professional staff of people that do these kinds of things. And it's a real tribute to the fire service, because we have so many fire service people that come in, and we have a great transition process as the leaders know that they need to have second and third in command, so that as they step out, or if they're unable to attend, someone can clearly just step in and continue the work. And I'll tell you, if you've been to the memorial, just how smoothly things go. There's a lot of sausage making that's going on the back end, but the details to which they go to, and the depth of their commitment to make sure that everything is as perfect as it can be for the families. It just demonstrates the true values of the fire service, and how they want to honor the fallen and make sure the families know that they will always be remembered.
And you have a lot of surviving family members from previous years, do you not, coming back to help with the ceremony and to help the...
Yeah, absolutely. We have, we had over 800 family members whose firefighter was being honored just this past May. And then about 150 to 200 returning families whose firefighter has been previously honored. They come to wrap their arms around those families, to help guide them through the process, and then just be there for whatever needs to be done, whether it's folding shirts for the store or helping at registration. They just come and want to pay it forward. In fact, one of the messages we got from one of the family members that attended, the first time family member, was, I want to come back next year, and I want to do what those families did for me. I want to be able to pay it forward.
Okay. And last couple of years, we've switched the dates on a memorial ceremony. And some people were asking questions, why did you do that? And we did it for an important reason. So if you'd like to share that reason.
Yeah. So as you know, every beginning of October was the marked moment where we would honor every fallen firefighter. It was related to Fire Prevention Week. But the other downside of that is it aligns with the fiscal year of the federal government. So we got to a point where year after year, we were threatened with the potential closing of the federal government. And of course, the fire administration and the memorial is on a FEMA site. So if you remember, I think it was 2018 where the government actually did shut down, and we could not host the memorial on campus. So the decision was made, and the board took on the difficult decision to say, we need to change the date of the memorial because year after year, we're just up against this potential government shutdown. So it was, we have now done two memorials in May. So that was quite a switch. And, it's had some benefits, but there's a whole ripple effect that occurs. So, we used to be able to make determinations of a firefighter being honored all the way up till June so that we could order the plaque, get everything lined up. Well, we've had to back that up until the end of December now. We have to make those determinations. So it's been a switch for the staff and for the whole foundation, but it's been very successful. And we're actually, in many cases, able to reach the families sooner and have their firefighter honored because we're earlier in the year.
Okay, you said determinations, which leads to my next question. For so many years, we're seeing the numbers actually drop in the number of line of duty deaths, but then suddenly those numbers went up, and it has a lot to do with the changes that were made by the foundation to honor firefighters who succumbed to cancer. So if you want to explain that whole process of how the foundation determines who gets honored at the memorial ceremony, and again, the somewhat recent change that addresses cancer.
Sure. So we when the foundation was created, we brought all the fire service groups together and came up with the criteria of, what is a firefighter? And then secondly, what criteria do we use in order to make sure that firefighter is properly honored at the National Memorial? And, clearly the incidents in which a firefighter falls through a floor, building comes down, vehicle accidents, those types of things, burn injuries, that was the initial intent. And then what we also do is we follow the Public Safety Officer Benefits Program very, very closely. So if their family receives the death benefit offered by PSOB, then that automatically we make sure we honor that firefighter and invite those families. In 2018, as more and more information was becoming available and the studies were demonstrating that firefighters are dying at a higher rate as a result of cancer, we made that switch and we added cancers to our criteria. So even though PSOB doesn't follow that, we've decided that there was enough information out there that clearly we should be honoring those firefighters as well. So we've seen that the states are providing the documentation we need. We need documentation that shows that firefighter's cancers as a result of having been a firefighter. And either the municipality or the state provides that information. So early on, we were getting information, but we didn't have all the proper documentation. Well, as I mentioned, in 2018, we made that switch. Here we are now, 2025, and those states have figured out exactly what is needed. So that streamlined process of being able to collect that information, we're able to properly honor those firefighters that are dying and succumbing to cancers, and that's expanded the number of firefighters that we're honoring. The trauma deaths are way down. I think that's a real tribute to the training that firefighters are getting. But what we're learning is that there's other things that have taken the lives of firefighters, and we need to address that and make the changes appropriately. And as you know, I think it was 2019. Legislation was added to add the criteria of suicide. We've yet to honor a suicide death, but we know that that's coming as well at some point. So we're preparing for that.
Okay, so the public safety officer benefit, does the foundation help the survivors? Do they help the fire departments file those claims with the Bureau of Justice Assistance?
Yeah, it's one of the things that we're very, very proud of. We have a local assistant state teams. There's a local assistant state team in just about every single state. And if there's a state that doesn't have one, we're actively recruiting for someone to take that lead. But we can also have a neighboring state come in and assist. And their goal is to reach out to the fire department within 6 hours of learning of a firefighter fatality. Now they've got training on how to support that fire department when it comes to planning for the funeral, keeping operations going, and everything related to what that fire service is going to need. But their main goal is to make sure that the paperwork is completed so that and properly submitted to the Bureau of Justice Assistance, so that if that family is eligible to receive that death benefit, they have the best chance of getting that.
So the last teams, you say that you have last teams in basically every state in the union. Do you have points of contact listed on your webpage for these points of contact?
We do. We call them a CAST. So the last teams, local assistant state team, has a coordinator. So each last team has a CAST. the coordinator of the assistant state team, and they are all listed on the website. And I would really encourage any firefighter, any fire chief, state associations to get to know your last or your cast members, so that you can reach out to them, and it's the first time you're talking to them isn't when you're trying to deal with that fatality.
Okay, let's talk about funding for the operation. It takes a lot of funding for the foundation to perform its mission. Can you provide a breakdown of the funding? How much you do receive from the federal government? How much you receive from the corporate community and individual contributions?
Yeah, our overall budget is about $10 million. We get about $3 to $4 million through our grants. The Department of Justice offers some funding that helps support our family programs in a very significant way. And then our line of duty death prevention programs are strictly funded through Fire Act. So we submit for a grant, actually for both of them. We submit for a grant and are competitive, and we've been very fortunate to be able to receive those grants to not only support our line of duty death prevention programs, but to be able to continue to offer our programs for the families. And then about half, the rest of it really comes from corporate donations, individual donations, and we are consistently, actively seeking to receive the funds so that we can continue the important mission of honoring our fallen and serving the families.
Okay, I know you have a special ceremony coming up in New York City later this year. Do you want to share some thoughts on this event?
So in about a year and a half ago, we realized that New York was saying that they have surpassed the number of firefighters that have died due to 9/11 related illnesses than what was actually died on September 11th, 2001. So as you know, 343 firefighters died on that fateful day. And so we started to look at the number of firefighters we've honored from 9/11 related diseases and realized there's a gap. They're saying over 343, we have about 120 that we've honored. So we went to New York and said, hey, let's look at what you have. And so what we've come up with is there's 176 firefighters that just through channels, we haven't been able to connect with New York on that. So we've streamlined the process. So we are communicating with the FDNY much more strategically and regularly. But there's 176 firefighters that have yet to be honored at the National Memorial. So on October 18th, we are going to take the memorial to them. And we're going to be at the Staten Island Community College. And we're going to offer an opportunity for the families to come. And we're going to host that memorial in New York because lots of reasons. One, we didn't want to overwhelm the May Memorial in such a way that it all becomes about New York. And we wanted to be able to offer that to the families so that they don't have to travel as far in order to have their firefighter honored. So on October 18th, planning is in full throttle to prepare for that, as well as fundraising for that. It's going to cost us nearly $500,000 to put that memorial on, to make sure we honor those heroes that not only served on that fateful day, but as a result of that, came up with these horrible illnesses that has prolonged their suffering and as well as for their families. So we're proud of the fact that we're working so closely with New York and able to host that memorial. And it's a heavy lift for us as an organization, but it's the right thing to do.
Well, here's your chance. You did talk about fundraising, and I know it's going to cost an awful lot of money. And so I'm sure you've got some type of sponsorship perspectives. I'm sure you have some type of information you can make available to the fire service community, to the corporate community. So where would you direct these people to go to find out more information about that event?
So I would say go to our website, scroll down to the bottom, and where it talks about us, you can find my email address and any of the email addresses for our development team. Or you can just fill out the form. There's a contact us, reach out, say, hey, I want to find a way to support that special event, and we will make sure we connect with you, offer our perspectives on sponsorship opportunities, and just know that every penny counts. It's I often tell people when my son went to college, my oldest son went to college, a roll of quarters meant a lot because it meant he did laundry. I'm not sure he did laundry with it, but he certainly had that roll of quarters. So, every roll of quarters is very meaningful for the foundation.
So, I mean, looking ahead, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, what do you foresee as the challenges that we face in the foundation? I mean, yeah, the funding issue is a challenge, I think, for every organization out there. But, when you look at some of the threats being posed to our firefighters and the role of the foundation in addressing some of these threats, where do you think the biggest challenges lie?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is meeting the expanding needs of the families and the fire departments. As you mentioned, the wildland fires, just continue to increase, putting firefighters in greater danger. The things that we're learning that are taking the lives of firefighters. So we know there's going to be more firefighters to honor and more families to serve. So that expansion of services is essential for us. And if you look at the grants, and we talked about that a little bit, they have pretty much remained flat over the last 15 to 20 years. We've not increased the amount of funds that are being offered. So we have to offset that through our corporate giving, our individual giving. So in order for us to be able to meet that need, we've got to be able to really expand our funding sources so that we can support those families and honor those fallen. And then, as you were at the National Memorial this past May, we had inclement weather. We had to rent a tent at a very high cost to be able to ensure that those families are comfortable when the inclement weather comes. And I would love for us to be able to find a property nearby where we can build a building and it could just be plug and play. Now, when the weather's great, we love having that ceremony outside. It's very meaningful, and it's right there at the memorial. But if we could find a spot where we can bring the families and make sure we're covering all their needs for the memorial, and then continue to support the fire departments when it comes to our line of duty death preventions. Our affiliate, the First Responder Center of Excellence, is doing a fantastic job on what Chief Frank Lieb, who is the managing director for that organization, says. That's the blind side of what's taken firefighters' lives, with cancer, cardiac, fitness-related issues, and suicide, mental health. So, we know we need to continue to really focus on those efforts while at the same time supporting the training and education that firefighters need in order to be able to safely operate on an emergency scene.
Let's talk a little bit about legislation. I know that's not necessarily an issue that you delve into so much as your Director of Government Relations, but I do know that there's two pieces of legislation up on Capitol Hill that would have a tremendous impact on the foundation as well as honoring our fallen heroes. So, do you want to touch on honoring our Fallen Heroes Act?
So, as I mentioned, in 2018, the board made the brave, courageous decision of adding cancer. But that's required by the state and the municipality to provide that documentation. That act that you mentioned is now going to potentially level the playing field so that the family will receive that federal benefit in certain situations under certain cancers. And as I mentioned earlier, anytime a firefighter, their family receives that death benefit, automatically we're going to honor that firefighter. So the potential for the cancer deaths for us to be honoring more and recognize that the fact that those firefighters are dying as a result of that, that has a huge impact on us. So we're actively, seeking and keeping tabs on that through Sean Carroll, our government affairs director, who does a fantastic job, and we're supporting that. It's the right thing to do for our fallen heroes and for the families, but we know it's going to have a big impact on us as an organization to be able to serve those families as they need to be served.
Okay, so right now, I believe there's one bill that was introduced on the Senate side, Senate Bill 237, that was introduced by Senators Klobuchar from Minnesota and Senator Kramer from North Dakota. I don't believe there's been a House bill that's been introduced, but as Victor just said, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Sean Carroll at the foundation, or you can reach out to Michaela Campbell, our Director of Government Affairs at CFSI, for additional information about that. Then there's another piece of legislation that's out there that was recently introduced, and that's the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Coin Act. So do you want to touch on that?
Yeah. So, and thanks for the opportunity to do this. Yeah. So the Coin Act. So there's each year there's two opportunities to mint a coin for a particular commemoration. So we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of the United States. So there's a coin bill going through to mint a coin for that, and then and what happens when you mint a coin and you get the legislation passed? It's a commemorative coin that's minted through the U.S. Mint, who does creates all the money for the United States. So when we can sell that coin, and once that coin is sold enough that it recoups the cost to the government for creating that coin, the rest of the funds comes to an organization. So our commemoration for the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation Memorial, that coin has the potential to really raise not only awareness about what we do, but raise critical funds for us to be able to expand our programs.
And that coin would just be minted in 2026, correct? And I think there's three types of coins: a dollar coin, if I'm not mistaken, a $5 coin.
Yeah. So and I don't know all the particulars, and I should,
Okay.
but yes, it's a set of coins that can be sold commemoratively. It can be really nicely packaged, and yeah, and so it's really just a phenomenal opportunity to raise awareness and raise funds. And I know there's other organizations. There's some law enforcement organizations that have been very successful in getting a coin minted. And so, yeah, if you can reach out to your legislators, please, ask them to support that bill. It requires 2/3 of Congress and the Senate to pass that legislation. And we're getting some good momentum. We've got some good. We actually have more signers to that bill than the 250th commemoration coin at the moment. So so we're doing pretty well with that, but not well enough that we haven't reached the finish line on that. So I would certainly highly recommend and plead for everybody to reach out to their congressmen and senators to support that bill.
Okay. And that bill, again, there's one bill that's been introduced in the House, and that is HR 2257. If you do have any questions out there about this piece of legislation, again, reach out to Sean Carroll with the Fallen Firefighters Foundation or Michaela Campbell at CFSI, and we can get you all the information you need. So when you look at community engagement and partnerships, how important is collaboration with local fire departments and the corporate sponsors?
It's essential. We're only as good as our reputation, and I'm pretty confident I can call any fire department in the country, and the answer will be yes before I ask the question. And so we're very grateful for that level of support, and that's essential to us, but it's also a responsibility. So we never want to abuse that power or that ability to be able to do that. But we do enjoy that level of support, because I think most people know we're here. We're not a one and done kind of an organization. We're going to be there for the fire department and for the families of those fallen firefighters. And then we enjoy great relationships with not only the Congressional Fire Service Institute. We have the International Association of Firefighters is on our board, the National Volunteer Fire Council. We're working with the Center for Public Safety Excellence on some projects. So it's really essential to maintain those strong relationships. And I know you know this as well, and you've been doing this for many years. When it comes to the legislative component, for the fire service to really truly be able to speak with one voice, and you've been doing that kind of work on the legislative areas and as well as many others. And so we want to work together with our partners to make sure they know what we're doing, see how we can collaborate and do things together, so we're not just being redundant in our efforts. And for us, when we're either spending grant money or donated money, it's essential for us to be able to make sure that we're doing the best that we can with that. And that collaboration goes a long way in order to make sure we're streamlining and as agile as we possibly can be.
If you look back over the last 20 or 30 years, you really kind of have seen a shift in attitudes about firefighter health and safety. You're seeing embraced, at least from my perspective, by more firefighters. And I think, it's a cultural change to me. And I don't know what you think, but I tend to think some of that can be traced back to the 16 firefighter life safety initiatives that were developed, collaboratively by representatives of our nation's fire service.
There is no question that in 2004, when the foundation under Ron Sarnicki's leadership brought all the fire service organizations together to talk about firefighter health and safety, initiative number 13, and they're not in rank order. They're all just as important as one as the other. But that initiative to focus on firefighter mental health, as well as the mental health of our fire hero families, began, I think, to move the needle. And if you look at if you did a program related to mental health 20 years ago, you might have a handful of people that would show up. We just hosted, through the First Responder Center of Excellence, along with the Fallen Firefighters Foundation, we hosted a mental health and suicide prevention symposium in Nashville in April, and we had to turn people down. There was over 300 people that attended. It was a phenomenal event. And there's a lot of focus on the firefighters' mental health and the things that firefighters have to contend with day to day. So it's you're absolutely right. There's that. I think that was the initial shift, and it's one of those blind sides that are taking the lives of firefighters. And one of the things we don't know is, as we're trying to track suicides, we don't know how many people just lose, or because of PTSD or whatever other issues, get retired and don't. They may live, but they have to contend with those issues for the rest of their lives, and the impact it has on their spouses, on their families, the people around them. So a lot of work that still needs to be done there, but it's there. You're absolutely right. There's a true cultural shift in that area.
And I just like to make put in an award for the Senator Paula Sarbanes Fire Safety Leadership Award that NFFF and CFSI co-sponsor with VFIS and UL Fire Safety Research Institute. It's a great award that recognizes fire departments, fire organizations that are doing things to address the 16 firefighter life safety initiatives. So I would encourage, if any department, any of you who are listening, if your department or your organization is doing anything to address firefighter health and safety, take a look at the award criteria, because I think the purpose of awards is, one, to recognize organizations and individuals for their achievements, but two, to share that information about what's being done for organizations and individuals that are looking for a project or programs of their own that they can incorporate or that they can implement within their own fire stations. And so we've had a lot of great success stories coming out of this award program. And I think, the more participation we can get in this award program, the more information we can share with members of the fire service community. So again, I thank NFFF for serving as such an important co-sponsor of this award program.
We're really proud to sponsor that and work with CFSI on that. And one of the highlights for me has been seeing just how innovative some of these departments have been to address their specific needs and how they're really moving the needle locally to protect their firefighters, so that at the end of every shift they can go back to their families in as good a condition as when they came into that shift. And and then we can really amplify that work. So it's a great opportunity, and appreciate CFSI naming that under one of our major founders, Senator Paul Sarbanes, and being able to amplify the work of the foundation and local departments.
So if you're interested in learning more about this award, again, you can go on to CFSI's website, www.cfsi.org, or NFF's website, which is Fire Hero or Heroes. Is it plural? I always forget.
Hero.org.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we're coming to the close of our podcast. I thank the listeners for participating, and we hope you learned something from this from the last 45 minutes. We certainly thank Victor for participating and for the leadership he is providing on behalf of the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. The foundation is serving such a critical role in our nation's fire service to honor our fallen firefighters, to support their family members for as long as they need that support, and to, of course, to help the firefighters reduce line of duty deaths. Victor, I thank you for the leadership you're providing. And again, if you have any questions about the mission CFSI is performing, please give us a call. We're eager to listen to any concerns you might have about what's going on in Washington, D.C. with the legislative process and with some of the federal agency programs. But we also encourage you to get engaged. Again, you have such an important role in Washington, D.C. You are the ones that members of Congress are going to be listening to the most. You are the people who are electing them to office. You're the ones that are bringing them back to Washington, D.C. And they're supposed to be representing your concerns in our nation's capital. So if you ever have any questions about legislation that's out there, please let us know. You can send an email to update@cfsi.org, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So on behalf of CFSI, thank you, Victor, for participating, and thank you for our listening audience for participating as well. And please stay safe. Thank you very much.